We have with us a resource person in the fields of finance and also diplomatic negotiations. He will be telling us more about how best to negotiate, especially with our leaders or leaders of our country when they sit at the negotiation table so they can get a better deal for the people of Ghana. So join me as I speak to Ebenezer Lartey, a trained negotiator and a financial consultant. You're welcome to Diplomatic Affairs, sir.
Thank you very much.
Today you touched on some important and very sensitive topics. You talked about diplomatic negotiations. First of all, before we go even into the negotiation bit of it, quickly, let's look at who a diplomat is.
Or simply, a diplomat is someone who represents the interests of a host country in another country. So what diplomacy is all about is representing the interest of your state and your government in a foreign country. Basically, that is what diplomacy is about. And seeking the interest of one's country, even in a foreign country.
So in this case, this person must be appointed by the president of a country.
Yeah, that is what is permissible within the confines of our constitution. So the president is the appointing authority, which I think brings its own challenges. But since that is what our constitution limits us to, I think we'll just work with it as it is.
It is the training for emerging leaders and diplomats. You touched on the importance of having the best skills when one sits at the table. Let's talk about why it is important for anyone to get the best of skills in negotiating, even in our own personal lives. And then before we even come to the bigger table.
All right. So as I said, Ghana as a country has a lot of trade agreements with different countries. Now, these trade agreements are based on the government of the day's policy. In view of that, what we have to understand is that every government has its own policy. Every government has its agenda it seeks to propagate. So if a government in power wants to achieve a particular end, and it has in its, among its resources, people who are negotiators or who are supposed to negotiate, or people who are diplomats. I believe that as a diplomat, no matter your level, no matter at what, where the position you have been placed, whether as an ambassador to a country, to the United Nations, to any other organization, I believe one of the requirements which is very essential is that you must have an understanding of negotiation. Because if, say, China wants to have a deal with Ghana, the first point of call is the ambassador of Ghana to China. So how does the ambassador of Ghana to China know international trade? What does he know about negotiation? All these things are the reasons why I believe that even to be a diplomat or to be appointed as an ambassador or a diplomat of this country, you must have the requisite negotiation skills. If you don't have, then I beg to differ, your appointment is questionable.
Now we know how essential it is for a diplomat to have the requisite negotiation skills. Let's talk about the things to look at when negotiating. When you are at the negotiation table, what do you look out for?
When you're on the negotiation table, you are looking at the selfish interest of your nation, which is very important.
Nothing else matters.
Nothing else matters. Your nation first. And that is the policy. However, as African countries, we have bad negotiation skills because we don't have the clouds. We cannot move at par with them because they are more advanced than us. They have the resources, they have the power, they have everything to their side. So always, as African countries, we go to the negotiation table with a weaker leg.
What are some of the instances that we can talk about when it comes to having bad deals as a nation?
I wouldn't call them bad deals. I will call them deals which could have been better. There is no extremely bad deal. Every deal has some good sides and some bad sides. But what I would say is that I believe that as negotiators, we must try and limit, most of the restrictive clauses in the bilateral negotiations, so that when Ghana has a contract or an agreement with, say, United States, there will surely be limitations. then we cannot take away the limitations. But what I believe we have to do as a country is that we have to ensure that the limitations do not succeed the benefits. Most of the times in the long run, in the short run, during negotiations, it looks so good on the table. But the question is that these economic agreements I'm signing, in the long run, what will be the implication? So that is a very typical example. So I believe that if we are making a deal, even though they are good size and they are bad size, we need the money. We don't have it. They're ready to give it to us, but they are giving us conditionalities. Now we should be able to renegotiate the conditionalities such that even though it may not be so favorable, at least we should have some benefits and good deals as a country.
On the diplomatic level, can a bilateral transaction be changed?
It's changed. We've seen successive governments change certain, agreements. But the question is that what is the implication of the change? Why should we even be talking about a change when we could have done the right thing in the first place? When the government is changed, they go for all multilateral agreements and contracts. And what they do is that they review them. Most of the times after the review, we get better deals. So the question is that why couldn't we get a good deal in the first negotiation? And mind you, these are trained and experts. We have a lot of professionals to our advantage. I believe it's time we go to the negotiating table with the right caliber of people, whether they belong to a political party A or B. I believe that as far as they are experts in the field, when we want to have an agreement in oil, we must get an oil expert. A politician can go, fine, he's the ambassador is appointed by the president. But I believe that in addition to that, we should have people who are experts, who can really analyze things and be able to bring the loopholes and the effects on our country.
These are usually political appointments.
Yes, they are political appointments. But every political party in Ghana has its own experts. If you lack it in your party, we have a lot of Ghanaians all over the world.
Some people are of the view that we treat ambassadorial roles like a consolation prize. What's your view on this? Which is why some people who really do not have the skills to represent the country in other countries are being appointed because of their political affiliations.
United Nations is political. ECOWAS is political. So the leaders' AU mission is always an African president. If it's been headed by a politician, you should expect politicians to put their people there. And which is not wrong. Our constitution allows the president to appoint diplomats. So for me, it is something which can only be changed when we make the right constitutional amendments. But look, talking about that as well, we must also ask ourselves that, are we ready for that? Now, a government is in power, has its own policies, it has its own agenda. Why would I go and put someone who, in quotes, is diplomatically trained and neutral if he cannot articulate what I stand for as a political party?
You are talking about career diplomats.
I'm talking about career diplomats. So a career diplomat is very important. I agree with that. They are trained, they have the requisite expertise. However, it is a political appointment. Our constitution has given the president the power to appoint. So if you're a career diplomat and you are not affiliated to a political party, then there is a challenge. Because if there is a change in government, even though you are a career diplomat, most of them lose their jobs or they are sent back to Ministry of Foreign Affairs and they are almost redundant until their government comes to power. So for me, I don't see it as neither here or there. What matters is that when you are sent, you must make sure that you are ready for what you are being sent to do. We should do training for them. Our diplomats must be knowledgeable, especially in business. Ghana, we are tired of so many bad deals our leaders are making. Why? Because someone is there for a political party and is representing that political party's interest. And they are looking at today, what do I get from this deal now, which will help my government to be popular among the people? Not what will be the effect of this particular agreement in 10 or 20 years' time. That is where the challenge is. And a career diplomat can also commit the same blunder. Don't forget this. If a career diplomat is appointed by a president, automatically you have allegiance towards the president. Because if a president has appointed you as a career diplomat, you become a tool, excuse my language, in the hand of the president. So when you are not doing things as he expects, you can lose your job. So if you're a career diplomat and you are appointed by a government, you automatically wear the colors of the government.
You talked about Ghanaians getting tired of so many bad deals being signed on their behalf. Let's talk about what's your view on the Sino Hydro deal? Maybe we are lacking some understanding, or probably we don't have proper breakdown of the deal. Could you tell us what you think about the Sino Hydro deal?
The Sino Hydro deal, to be very balanced, it has its own limiting factors. However, looking at the state of the economy, I believe it's a good deal. It's a good deal because we need money for this infrastructure. Sino Hydro is fronting, as it were, for Ghana to get this deal. And we are going to pay they are getting us a loan in a bank. What is going to happen is that Sino Hydro is going to ensure that Ghana pays back the loan. So in
$2 billion. That's $2 billion.
And $2 billion in any economy is huge money. But the question is that what have we sacrificed for that? Etiwa is in trouble because of this deal. That should tell you that in every deal, there are some good sides and there are some bad sides. So I think we need to weigh the options. Do we need railway projects? Very important. Are our roads bad? Extremely bad. Is this the best deal for Ghana? I beg to differ. I believe we need money, but loaning our bauxite or using our bauxite as collateral, it is $2 billion. And we are told we are going to pay back $2 billion. What is the exchange rate now? How would the exchange rate be? That is the difference. The exchange rate is going to change. It wasn't quoted in cedis, it was quoted in dollars. So it means that with time, we are going to be paying more, even though it is $2 billion. That is one very critical issue. How are we going to manage this as an economy? And what are the projections in the bauxite? As a nation, do we know the amount of money we can make out of the bauxite? How long is it going to take us to repay this loan? If it's going to take 10, 15, 20 years, nobody knows. Why should we do such a thing to our country? I don't have any problem with infrastructure.
Because $2 billion is a lot of money.
It's a lot of money. Every African country needs this money. But the question is that, is it worth sacrificing our bauxite? And this is not about the current value. It's about the future value. In 2030, 2025, what will be the value of bauxite? In 2025, in 2030, what will be the exchange rate of the cedi to the dollar? In 2007, it was almost a cedi to a dollar, one cedi to $1. Today the dollar is hitting 5.2. Multiplied by 5 in 12 years. In the next 12 years ahead of us, we can be exchanging a cedi for $25. Where do we go from there? A dollar rather for 25 cedis. Where do we go from there? That means we are going to take a huge amount of our country's resources to be servicing these loans. Never agree with the fact that it is said that it's not a bad deal. It's not a bad deal because we're getting money now. But the money now and the value of the $2 billion in future, they are not the same.
So in your view, the deal itself is not a bad deal. It is just what we are exchanging it for that is not the best for you.
The deal is not a bad deal. And I know that when there is a change of government, it will surely be reviewed. That has been our culture in Ghana. I know that there will surely be a review. And the Chinese and Sino Hydro, they will be ready to renegotiate. Why? Because they still have interest in Ghana's bauxite. We have the resources. We don't have the men. They said we're going to use our bauxite as collateral. $2 billion. Our bauxite worth is over $600 billion.
Your final word.
All what I can say is that government must train its appointees if they are not career diplomats. And one of the most essential training I think the government must invest in is on negotiation skills.
All right, thank you very much. Ebenezer Lartey has been our guest on Diplomatic Affairs, and he has given us his view on the need for us to have that negotiation skills when we go to the table to have deals on behalf of our dear country.